Hello and welcome to another great edition of Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. And let me plant this scripture in your mind. Where there is no guidance, a people fail, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. We know that's Proverbs 11:14. Listen, today's conversation, we're going to be talking about a subject that is a regular conversation on Be Lifted Up Radio because it's all about legacy and inheritance. And it's about what we leave for our children and for future generations and what God expects of us when it comes to stewardship, building wealth, creating legacy, and maintaining healthy family relationships. So we're talking about multi-generational. If it's not multi-generational, it's not wealth. Well, today's guest, man, get your notepads out. You know, I say that every show. Get your notepads out because you're going to need to sit there and learn and study and apply what you're going to hear today. Listen, we got a great guest. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, estate planning with a whole fresh spin. You're listening to Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. You do not want to miss it. And the question is, do I really need estate planning? The answer is yes. Stay tuned to make sure you understand why. Hello and welcome to Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr. And once again, a regular subject that we address on this show is estate planning. And we're going to ask the question again, do you really need estate planning? Well, listen, if you're a regular listener, you already know the answer is yes. But others may hear yes, but in their spirit, they're still saying no. So that's why we come back to this on a regular basis. We need to reinforce the importance of stewardship, wealth creation, legacy building, maintaining healthy family relationships for generations. If it's not multiple generations, it's not really wealth. You hear me say that all the time. And so we come to this subject and this conversation on a regular basis because we're talking about what God wants us for us through generations, not just in our own lifetime, not just for ourselves. Kingdom building goes way beyond what we might experience in the here and the now. And that's why this is such a great and important subject. But this is cool because I don't think I've ever had a guest quite like this one to actually address this topic with you. She's a powerhouse entrepreneur, a magnetic keynote speaker, a mentor on mission to help modern families, women entrepreneurs, faith communities, help them to protect what matters most. You hear that word priorities, y'all? We talk about that word priorities on this show on a regular basis. If you're not talking about priorities, you're not really focused on God's purpose. And this guest has a career spanning multiple industries. I hope we can get it all in one show because she has achieved greatness as a hospitality and restaurateur, business owner, legacy planning, estate planning. Hopefully we can fit all this overflow into one show. Please welcome to the show, Dr. NATALIE MICHON.
How are you doing?
I'm trying to figure out what we need to get you on like two different shows and have two different conversations.
I know. I was sitting here like, who is he talking about? And I was like, oh, that's me.
That's you. You know who I'm talking about. So, to the show, it's such a great honor and pleasure and a blessing to have you on. I always like to start the show. This is all my interviews, whether I do it for here or I do my work with Black Enterprise. Most of the time, the thing that we're doing, the purpose that we're serving in the here and now, was not necessarily what we thought we'd be doing when we were little kids. And I like to help people to understand the journey, especially younger people, not just younger people, but younger people to say, hey, I wasn't born thinking someday I'd be the editor of a magazine, the chief content officer of a media company and doing the things that I do. The background I came from, that wasn't even on the radar screen. So I always think people get blessed when they hear, or they see, Dr. NATALIE MICHON, and they have to realize you weren't born that way.
Right.
You were born with the capacity because God planted the seeds in you to do that. But there was a journey that you took to cultivate you to become who you are today. So talk a little bit about your journey to become Dr. NATALIE MICHON?
So, I will tell you, I come from a family. I, I think my father was probably, well, my grandfather was probably our first entrepreneur. My grandfather was an inventor, and invented earth moving machine. Um, and so he really kind of, I think, ignited entrepreneurship in our blood. And then my father, when I was younger, when I grew up, both of my parents were in corporate America. They were doing very well when I was a little girl. And then when my dad stepped out of corporate America, well, corporate America said, you know what, thank you, but we're going to lay off all of these workers, as my kids say, back in the 1900s. But he started a restaurant brand in St. Louis in 1989, and it was called Michon's. And so I grew up I was about 12 years old when that opened. And I just kind of grew up looking at my dad build his dream. That was his baby. So that restaurant brand was something he always loved, restaurant and lounges. And so to see him actually build it, I just sat front row and I was just in awe. And so I just, so just kind of growing up in that realm, entrepreneurship is just all I've really known since I was a teenager.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm a baby boomer. So I was from that generation that was basically told, get a good education,
Yeah.
get you a good job,
Mhm.
work hard, stay out of trouble, and maybe 40 years later, if you do good,
You'll go watch.
you'll get your gold watch, you'll get your pension, and you'll be great. And just do it,
Yeah.
do what the company tells you to do,
Mhm.
and without making anybody into a bad guy. That covenant definitely was broken, if not for the baby boomer generation, certainly for the Generation X that came right behind it, when it was like, no, there are no more guaranteed pensions, and we will lay people off in their 25th year, 5 years away from retirement, to right size the company and all those things. And I don't say that to throw people with corporate careers under the bus, because I tell people only 20% of any given population, in my opinion, is cut out to do entrepreneurship at any moment. So there's still a space for building a career. If you can find a company to work for that doesn't conflict with your values and you can bring value, there's nothing wrong with that. But I have a deep appreciation. In fact, I follow entrepreneurs that other people follow athletes. I'm a geek for entrepreneurs because of this idea of, especially for your generation and younger, who says, yes, that corporate world is there, but corporate ain't loyal. And I could build, your father did it, and he showed you an example. Yes, we did the corporate route, we were successful, but we're not dependent on that. And I say that a lot because of that whole, the spiritual principle of, sometimes we can be fooled to believing the corporation was our provider. But I know God was your provider. And God could take that away, but he still gives you the capacity to create wealth. So I just think that part of your legacy as an entrepreneur, and seeing that, is just a very, very important story to tell as you get on your path to who you became, or who you are now, and where you're going. Talk to me about your journey as an entrepreneur, taking those examples from your parents of hard work, entrepreneurship, and then tell me how you ended up with Gordon Ramsay and what that's like.
Oh, Albert, we should have gone through these questions before we sat on here. No, I'm kidding. So let me tell you.
You see me trying to get the tea. I'm like,
yeah, you trying to get all the tea on here. Well, we should have. Yeah, let me take my jacket off.
You gotta get yourself together, girl.
So let me tell you. So it was a roller coaster, but it was a fun. When I look back on it now, like sometimes when you're on that roller coaster, it's scary. Right? But when you can step off of that ride and you can look back and you be like, I really just did that loop-de-loop. We were upside down for a minute. We went to the side, you know what I mean? But I'm still standing here at the end. That's kind of what all of that did for me. When I actually went to medical school, and Albert, I'm going to tell you all my little business out here. Everybody going to know this stuff.
Right.
But I went to medical school, and in medical school, I was excited. I was geeked. I was pumped up. But I sat in class, and I think I took statistics like 3 times. And my mama was like, let me tell you something. We paying cash out here. take that class one more time and see what happens. It was like, she wasn't having it. So I was sitting there, I said, you know what, but I don't think it was necessarily that I wanted to be the doctor. I wanted to own the long-term rehabilitation center, right? So my mind was always a little bit different on what I wanted to do. Now, I left my junior year and my dad decided to move our restaurant brand to Atlanta. And it kind of like the stars aligned for us to move to Atlanta. I had my family was here. My mom's brothers were here. My mom went to Spelman. You know what I mean? So it was like, yes, let's go to Atlanta, our people. And so when I came here, I thought that coming into the restaurant business was going to be easy than medical school. Alfred, I should have stayed in medical school. I think medical school would have been easier than the restaurant business. But I need to catch you up on Gordon Ramsay. We did. Gordon Ramsay came to Atlanta and they said, we need to find a restaurant that we can film our show in. And I will tell you, reality show is reality show. So I was shocked when the world saw it because they painted their show. They painted what they wanted to paint of Michon's. And, you know, now I can kind of look back on it. My dad passed away a couple years ago. I can look back on it now just to see his face. But, you know, they kind of showed a light of a story that they wanted to show on their own. So I'm a little hurt. I still got bruises from that show.
I'm with you on that. Listen, everybody, we're here with Dr. NATALIE MICHON. This is Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. We're going to jump back on that reality show. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but I totally feel you. Listen, everybody, stay tuned. We will be right back with Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. Hello and welcome back to Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. As usual, I'm having too much fun. I'm having a ball. I'm about to be out of control. We're here with Dr. NATALIE MICHON, an unstoppable force behind a trailblazing entrepreneurial empire. And we're not going to spend too much more time on it, but we talk about how reality shows ain't reality. And I got a lot of experience with this because way back in the olden days of reality shows, I became a mentor to most of the Black contestants on The Apprentice. Back, Randall Pinkett, who I actually knew before he went on the show because we both went to Rutgers. Marshawn Evans is still a dear friend of mine. She's in Atlanta with her husband, Jack Daniels. And again, back in the so-called innocent days of reality TV when people thought that was real. And I'm like, no, they create their storylines, they cast you in certain roles, and you might not come out looking so good. But it's an experience. And you use the metaphor of a roller coaster. And again, there's no such thing as accidents. God always makes these things happen. I use roller coasters because I hated them. I hate roller coasters. I say hated. I'm over it. I think I'm over it. I rode them when I was a kid because you were supposed to. I rode them when my kids were little because I couldn't be the father that was scared to do it. But I remember I was like, I'm never doing it again. And coming out of the pandemic, I went to Universal and I rode the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk roller coaster, which should be against the law. I'm going to say that right now. But I made myself do it twice because I got a revelation that my capacity to trust the roller coaster, I took that as a capacity to trust God. Like, you get on a roller coaster, it makes you feel like you're going to die. But people ride it every day. They know they ain't going to die. And I was like, I needed the roller coaster to kind of train me to trust the twists and turns that life would take me through, and to be able to say, but God's got me, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, no matter how high up I am, no matter how fast I go down. And so when you said the word roller coaster in the context of this conversation, I'm like, it means something to me because I may never actually like riding roller coasters. Maybe I will someday. But now I make myself do it because it helps me to navigate the ups and downs of life. And I want to give the floor back to you because you had your experience with restaurant. I want you to talk some more about being a part of an acclaimed family restaurant brand.
Yeah.
And then the legendary Ford Hall, and we can talk a little bit about that. And then this ultimate transition to what you do now, as a speaker, as a mentor, and your passion for this idea of the importance of estate planning. So you can get there any way you want to, because like I said, it seems like three people in one that I'm trying to interview right now. But talk to me about that.
That's how it feels like sometimes in the morning. I'm like, do I have all of me together? Right. So, but no, like real quickly. So with Gordon Ramsay, it was cool. Gordon Ramsay is an incredibly nice man, which was so funny. Is because when it's like lights, camera, action, he's totally different. And so, which if you're going to act different with me, I'm going to definitely act different with you. Right. So, I remember, like everything was time. Everything is like, Natalie, we need you to stand right here. And then told my mom, okay, Miss Gay, we need you to stand right here. And, it was almost like it's really a setup. You can't cook food for 3 days until he comes. He has to eat 3-day-old leftover food. And so, which is not that's not our norm. Right. So, but Michon's, we made it through. It was cool because it aired all around the world. But I will say this, that people need to understand is people are very hurtful. I had like 2 million hate tweets from that show. And that hurts, right? Because the show, they crafted and they, produced the narrative that they wanted the world to see. Yeah. And so I remember on the commercial, they were like, stubborn business owner. And I was like, ooh, Dad, they talking about you. And then the camera turns to me and I'm like, what did I do? I'm just here holding up his arms. So it was just different. So and I'll tell you, I've watched the show twice since it filmed in 2011 and I'm good. Only time I need to go back and look at it without sound is if I just want to see my dad's face. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. And so, but I'll tell you, you kind of asked me a question earlier about entrepreneurship. What my dad placed in me really how to be an entrepreneur, a stand-up entrepreneur. And when I say that is, he would always tell me, Natalie, do right by people in business. My mom always told me to be kind. You know what I mean? So I took a lot of those, so my dad, I watched him build a restaurant brand to a certain level. And then what he gave me, I took it to a multi-million-dollar brand. And so, but because of just the morals and the values that he told me, he was like, I should be able to shake your hand and get what I'm asking you for. And that's what I grew in business. So, it's not in my bio. I bought a food distribution company when I knew that my dad's health was beginning to decline and I did not want to do the restaurant business without him. That was his baby. That was not the vision that God gave me. Some people are like, wait a minute, I don't understand. If your dad built this, then you should be able to take it on. Well, that's not what God gives the child sometimes, right?
Not just sometimes. Again, it's like whenever people say those things, and my reality check is, okay, let me go back to the word and see the stories that are being told.
Yeah.
Generation to generation to generation to generation. God is always doing something new with each generation. Yes. It's not do that forever and forever and ever and ever. Even if you do the same business, you're expected to do it in a different way.
Exactly.
He expects evolution. He expects expansion. So I feel you on that. But of course, the world will tell you, well, that's what your dad did. And how dare you not do it, what he did, the way he did it forever and ever and ever.
Let me tell you, I got all of that in DMs, like, how dare you? And you're just the worst person in the world. But then at the end of the day, I'm just like, I had a conversation with my dad probably about 2 months before he passed. And he told me, he would call me NATO. He said, NATO, don't you go to your grave with your baby in your belly. He said, I built Michon's for you. It's what you want to do. He said, if you want to keep it going, that's up to you. If you want to close it, that's up to you. But whatever you do it with integrity. And so that's what I did. And so I kind of mulled around after the pandemic a little bit, and I still got hospitality and serving in my blood. But I said, I don't want to touch another fork, spoon restaurant ever. Like that is not the life I want to live.
Right.
So I jumped into I started an event center business, which was great because it gave me the flexibility and time freedom and my desire to still watch people walk in that door and have an experience that they're looking for and then go home.
Was
right?
that the legendary Ford Hall?
That's the legendary Ford Hall.
Excellent, excellent.
So I have that. And but I will tell you, Airtight, my baby came from, and I know we'll talk about that, but that's 18-year-old in my gut. So what I did in the interim was one thing I do believe that I feel like everybody should have, even if you are in corporate America, is another stream of income. So I do believe in multiple streams of income because if something should ever fail or something should ever shift, then you're not devastated. And so for me, so if you'll look at my thing and see how many hats I wear, is because I do enjoy checks coming in from different directions. Right.
Oh.
And for me, it's like, if it's something I like, something I feel like is going to be great, something I want to try, I'm going to jump out there and try it. That's just how if I feel like God was like, you know what, this is who you can help. This is how you can make it work. Things like that. Then I do it.
Well, you and I have that in common. One of the things that my mother told me, I don't think I understood what she was saying when she told me, but I took what I took from it as we go into the break. She told me everything you allow yourself to learn, you will use before you die. And again, I might have been 9 when she said that to me. But what it planted in me is this appreciation for, I'm curious about trying and doing different things. And if I could tell you how often I had the answer to a question in the room because of some strange thing that I was interested in, that looked like I had no reason for me to know. It really does equip you. And as we come back on the other side of this break, of course, everybody, we're here with the wonderful Dr. NATALIE MICHON. This is Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. We're rolling, so I hope you're paying attention and taking notes. But my point is, as we go into the break, that if you let God equip you and don't question it, don't worry about what it's for. Know that He gave it to you for a reason. He's preparing you for something down the road, and you'll find out when you get there.
Yep.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. We're back with Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life, and we're here with the amazing Dr. NATALIE MICHON. She's trying to get us through all of the different businesses that she's done. She's doing a great job at it, and we're having a ball doing it. But you talked about, yes, you gained something by being a part of your father's dream with the restaurant. He wisely released you to your own destiny and your own purpose and your own calling as you moved on to other ventures, including the legendary Ford Hall. But we're ultimately here to talk about your passion for this idea of estate planning and legacy building. And as we talked about even before we came on the set, me and Gwen was like, oh, this idea, HEIR TIGHT, HEIR, is so cool. And I can't wait to talk about your book. I know you didn't just die. And here's what I love about this. Someone who's talked about this stuff for decades, through my work at Black Enterprise and for this show, how you could deliver messages around serious things like estate planning and the passing of loved ones is actually more important than the technical accuracy of the information. Because people will avoid it if you don't know how to feed it to them in a way, as good as it is for them, as much as they know they need it. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, I know I'm really going to enjoy this. So without further ado, let me let you talk about both of those things.
Yes. So let me tell you a story. Back in 2004, my uncle, that was very instrumental in Michon's becoming very popular in Atlanta, would always sit at the bar. Our bar was like Cheers, right? Bartender knew your name. When you walked in, your drink was sliding down to your seat, right? It was that kind of vibe. And but one particular Thursday, my uncle did not show up. And so He would sit at the end of the bar when I'll call them the old heads, right? It was his whole crew that was sitting down there. And then when they were at the end, when they were sitting down there on a Friday, one of his friends calls my mom at the restaurant and says, "Hey, listen, Andre was not there last night. So I tried to call him for a couple days. Can you go check on him?" My mom says, "Of course." So she grabs her purse. She goes downtown Atlanta. And so she pulls up to his apartment and she calls me. She says, "Nat, I think you need to come down here because there's 3 days of newspapers at his door." So I said, "Well, do you have a key?" She says, "No." She's like, "Well, I'm going to call the police to do a welfare check." So the police come down. They get into his apartment. Now, this is an uncle that's lived there for 20 years. He did not have kids, right? And was not married. So we get our way into the apartment, and then the police come down and they said, "We need somebody to come up here and identify this gentleman in the apartment." My uncle unfortunately laid there deceased for about 3 days. Right? So of course, I tell people the first 48 hours is a shock, right? That's your first few minutes to try to, number one, you're processing the inevitable, right? You're processing like what in the world is about to happen, or what happened? How long was he here? What, was he alone? Like you have so many questions going through your mind. But then the next question is, what do I do now? And in this situation is kind of saying, well, he's single. He doesn't have kids. Like, now where are his documents? Like, what do we do? What funeral home do we call? Like, we're not in this business to, just to call funeral homes. This is not a norm, right? And so we call one of our local funeral home friends that would always sit at the bar too, that owns a funeral home. So I'm thinking, Alfred, listen, whiskey, funeral, like there's got to be a way that we can work out a deal. I'm giving you a lot of whiskey, so I should get a good deal on a funeral. So that didn't work out like that. He gave us this long, huge invoice. And as we're flipping the invoice, we're looking like, is this how? I'm selling chicken wings. I need to be selling caskets because that's how big that invoice was. So we're flipping and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, how can we get this bill down? Like, does he need these Egyptian cotton sheets, or can I bring some sheets from home? Like, right. This bill was huge because we knew at the end of the day, we were going to have to pay for this funeral because we couldn't find a life insurance policy. We couldn't find anything. So we decided the funeral home owner, like we said, we need to cut this down. I said, if I need to bring a pillow from home, he doesn't need a pillow. Like, I don't understand why this is that much. So we cut the bill back. He said, listen, what we can do is do a cremation. So we said, perfect. So let's do a cremation. But what we're going to do is we still want to have a celebration of life. So we rented a casket. We had at the chapel, at the funeral home, we had all of that there. And then we had the repast back at the building. About a day later, my mom gets a call from one of my uncle's kind of like business advisors. He saw in the newspaper, in the obituaries, that my uncle had passed. When he saw that my uncle passed, he immediately calls my mom at the restaurant and says, Gabe, I have Andre's burial policy, his will, and his life insurance policy. I said, wait a minute. Burial means in the ground, right? He said, yes, all of that's paid for. I was like, let me call you back. I'm going to need to go get this body. We called the funeral home. We were like, listen, where is Uncle Andre? They were like, he's at the crematory. Whatever you do, I need to get that body back. Like, blow out whatever you have left. Just let me get it back. Because my uncle had a plan. But my uncle never shared the plan with us, right? He never told us these things. So imagine had we cremated somebody that already had a burial policy, already had a plan. So we got his body back. We had to go buy a casket. And then we had a second funeral for my uncle graveside. And now he rests in a grave the way he wanted to be buried. So of course, over time, like if anybody ever had those issues, it didn't apply to me. So I never thought about it. I don't want to use the words I didn't care, but if it didn't apply to me, I didn't think about it, then I don't need to worry about it. But when it happened to me and happened to my family, I started noticing other people saying the same thing. Like a family member may live across country. How do they get to the items? How do they? So back in 2000, a couple years later was when I started hearing it. And I was like, oh no, I need to solve this problem. There's nothing else out there for documents to be in one safe and secure place for families to be able to communicate this in an event of emergency or death. Where would that be? So I created it. I created this space, which is airtight.
So let me tell you how you're convicting me. Because I had a similar experience with your uncle I had with my mom. She raised two generations of us. So she raised me and my siblings, and she raised my sister's kids. And the same thing. It was like, if the one place my mother was going to show up was the church. And you know, we live in different towns in the same state. And it was like, you know, your mother didn't come to church today. And eventually somebody went to check on her. Same thing. She passed in her sleep in her own bed. And then it was the same thing. It was like, what did she have? One of my nieces knew where some stuff was, but for the most part, we didn't know. And I'm the oldest, so me and my sister and one of my nieces and my aunt took responsibility for the burial. But to this day, well, our burial policy could show up today. I mean, my mother passed 7 years ago, but it wouldn't be any good now.
Right.
And so let me say why it's a conviction for me. Often we have guests on the show, and this is not only for the people listening to the show, it's for me too. The first thing my son said at his grandmother's funeral was like, so Dad, where's your stuff? If something were to happen to you, and it's here, but if I walked outside and got hit by a bus, they don't know the combination to the safe. They don't know the passwords. They don't know. So I just think this is an incredible, incredible service and need that you're providing as a solution that is huge when we talk about wealth doesn't get passed on by osmosis. There has to be a way to document it, verify it, and move it from one generation to the next. But if you can't even find the documents, like you said, you would have spent money, whether it's on cremation or burial, that was paid for, but you had no way of knowing if your friend had noticed in the paper that he had passed. Listen, right. Hold that thought. We're listening to Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. Now I know why God put this woman on the show, because this is another message to me to get my act together. Hold tight. We're going to talk more about Airtight. We're going to talk about her book, I Know You Didn't Just Die on Me. And we're going to, look, you guys, we're going to take this as a message from the Lord. We don't need to be afraid of this stuff. We just need to get on with it, because there are tools and resources available to help us do it. Sit tight. We will be right back. This is Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. We are here with Dr. NATALIE MICHON. She's talking about this vital service, Airtight, that will just capture all the essential documents you need to make sure you handle the transition of your loved ones in a way that's responsible and effective, that honors their wishes, that preserves wealth for the family. We know this is a time of challenge, but if you have everything organized in advance, Dr. Michon, that just takes such a huge weight off of people. It's such a blessing. So, I just really appreciate you for not seeing it just as a problem for you and your family, but having a seed planted in you, the entrepreneur that you are, to say there's a solution that must come out of this.
Absolutely. And I want to tell people out there that are listening, the biggest thing in entrepreneurship is to solve a problem. If you can solve a problem to mass people, then you have something great, right? And so for me, that's what I just wanted to do, was figure out how I could solve a problem for the majority of America, right? Yeah. And then take it global. Because I will say $100 million worth of valuables every year go unclaimed due to lack of communication. And 70% of the older Black community lose their property amongst death due to no will or no trust. Now, that's scary, because that's saying that we're starting over every generation, right? And we have to do better. We know better now, we got to do better. And so airtight is something that's been in my gut for 18 years. It's 18 years now from the time that I came up with the concept to now the time that you're hearing about it. It was something that God gave me, and it is pinged. So airtight is your secured virtual vault that will store, manage, and communicate all of your life, legal, and business documents. So in the event of emergency, death, chaos, or just I need to put my hands on it, that's what we do. So if you have a will or life insurance policy that you want to put into airtight, then you can share it with your loved ones. They're going to receive a secured link to your document. And guess what? You can choose whether or not you want them to see it now or when you want them to see it when you pass away. Like my kids get to it. My kids might get excited. Albert, if they see my life insurance policy right now, they might be like, you know what? You one of them Jordans. I know how we get, right? But they know where these documents are. God forbid something should happen, but God knows our numbers. He knows that day. We don't.
Right.
So let's not just assume that tomorrow is here for us. Let's just make sure that our family is protected today. And I tell people, airtight is not about death. It's about securing life. It's about preserving all of that we go out here and get the bag for every single day. Why make your family struggle to find it? Yeah. So that's what airtight does.
And the thing is, you're paying for it. You're paying for insurance. You're paying for these things. So it's not like this is free stuff that went to waste. They took money out of your paycheck. If it's employee provided insurance, whatever it is, you did pay for it. And yes. and I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to the audience, because I still have work to do in this space. But knowing this service exists it's a blessing, because just everything you said. It's a secure. They can have access to it now or later. I'm sure there's other capabilities that you don't have time to go into. But this idea of recognizing, and again, as someone who's worked for decades for Black enterprise, you spend multiple generations getting to the point where we can accumulate a significant amount of wealth, which was not something that our great-grandparents and even some of our grandparents had the opportunity to do. They didn't have access to the capital markets. They couldn't invest in stocks. They couldn't do any of that stuff. If you were born, I'm born in 1960. My generation, the first generation that actually could get a decent job in corporate America, no matter what your education level was. Mm-hmm. So now we're a few generations in, and you're right. It's not only, it would be a huge tragedy to build that wealth and not pass it on simply because nobody really knows where it is.
Right.
Less being able to get to it. And if you're a baby boomer, this is the biggest, it's not just Black baby boomers. This is about to be the biggest wealth transfer in the history of the world in America, because of the size of the baby boomer generation and the amount of assets that have been accumulated for people in that age group. And so you're right, we can't afford to leave this money on the table. And this is a great solution for that. But part of that solution is getting people to use it. So you built the solution, and I get the feeling that you wrote this book to make people understand here's why, and don't be afraid of it. And so talk about the book. I know you didn't just die on me. And
you're saying it perfectly, because it has 3 W's. Because it's saying, I've stood over a casket and I'm like, I know you didn't just die on me, right? And that was more like I'm gonna miss this person, but then I got more questions and I got answers. So what are we about to do? So I know you didn't just die on me is a compliment to Airtight. And that says, here's all of the things that you can do right now to make sure that your family does not have chaos. So there's things that you can do for tax savings even now. But with this book, it's such an easy read. I wanted to make sure I took out all of the fluff. I wanted you to be able to get the meat, at the end of each chapter, you can make your notes. At the end of each chapter, it's going to tell you what kind of professional you should seek to accomplish the task in that chapter. So if it's trust, then it's going to tell you, here are the different types of trust. Because when you're with a trust attorney, then I want you to be educated and recognize some of the terms that they're going to be dropping, right? Now you're positioned to ask better questions. Now you're positioned to, when you're hearing stuff, you're like, Got it. I do know the difference between revocable and irrevocable. I do know the difference between dynasty. Which one do I need? Now I'm being or I'm being taken care of with appropriate trust. So even like I can call my bank and tell my bank, do I need a TOD? That means transfer on death, my deed, right? Because if you should pass away, then you need to make sure that your deed is taken care of. How you can do that. So it's just different things that this book is going to do, because I ran across so many people that says, "Oh, I don't have a legacy." Oh no, yes you do. You have a legacy. Even if that legacy, you may not own a home, you may not own a car, but that legacy is still in some of those morals and your characteristics that you want to pass down from generation to generation. There's some recipes that you want to put in this book that you want to pass down from generation to generation. So we have more than what we think we have in our community. We just need to stop letting it get lost, right? If something should happen. So I know you didn't just die on me is the perfect tool for you to be able to move on through life, gracefully. And if anything should happen, your family is going to be able to have the things that they have.
There's two reasons why that's so important. One is the fact that a lot of times, and again, I put myself in that category, and you got to understand, I am someone who talks to these types of professionals all the time because I'm a financial journalist. So even I wrestle with the emotion of, I'm afraid I might go in there and I don't really know. I'm not an attorney. I don't, so there's the fear of I'm going there and I don't know what they're talking about. And people avoid it because of their lack of knowledge. They're not feeling equipped to even have the conversation. The other thing, when you talk about people don't have a legacy, and I got a couple of good estate planning attorneys that are friends of mine, they said they don't think they have a legacy until they pass away and their relatives have spent $200,000 on legal fees arguing over a lamp and who was supposed to get that lamp.
Right.
Like the lamp didn't mean anything to you, but because you didn't leave clear instructions and paperwork accessible, no, she said that was mine and I'm gonna sue you and we're gonna fight this out. And a lamp that probably cost $20, they spent $20,000 in legal fees fighting over it. So you think you don't have a legacy, but your people you're leaving behind, and you're talking about your biggest legacy is you want family members that will talk to each other. And
absolutely.
I've interviewed people that says, I got family members that ever since mama died, they will never talk to each other again because of all of the drama that came out of not taking care of this. So, listen, we could go on forever and ever. I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. What's the best way for our audience to stay in touch with what you're doing, where they can get the book, where they can get Airtight? What do you want them to know so they can continue benefiting from all the ways that you blessed us during the course of this conversation?
No, number one, thank you all so much. So on IG, you can find me at NATALIE MICHON on Instagram, right? I love chatting with people. I love meeting new people. There's not a stranger. So please feel free to connect with me. For the book, you can go to NATALIEMICHON.com to get the book. And it'll also lead you to a link to get Airtight. Or you can go straight. I want to challenge you all today. It's a 14-day free trial, so there's no excuses. And guess what, Alfred? It's only $11.99 a month to secure your legacy, right? So it's cheaper than Netflix, right? So there's absolutely no excuses. But they can go to getairtight.com. And remember, air is HEIR. So getairtight.com or NATALIEMICHON.com. And I'm here to be your legacy bestie. I'm going to ride this train with you.
Dr. Natalie, thank you so much. It's been such a genuine joy having you on the show. Like I said, we could have done 3 shows with you based on what you're doing. But I think we talked about the most important thing, which is what we brought you on for, which is Airtight and just everything you're doing. I'm so blessed and appreciative that you were able to make time to join us.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. I appreciate you.
Well, we promised and we delivered. This has been another great edition of Be Lifted Up Radio. Sit tight. We'll be right back. Well, as I said, we did it again. This has been another edition of Be Lifted Up Radio. Dr. Natalie Michon, entrepreneur, speaker, author, and innovator for this important tool that she created called Airtight. Again, we talk about estate planning on this show on a regular basis. We talk about the importance of leaving a legacy for future generations. We talk about being a good steward. We talk about all that stuff because that is core to why Be Lifted Up Radio exists and what we mean when we talk about living an abundant life. But you guys need to get airtight. I will be getting airtight because we really do have to take care of the wealth we have built, the wealth we've been blessed with. Good stewardship is not just making it and managing it in life, it's also preparing it as a legacy for future generations. So you definitely need to get airtight. And we again thank Dr. NATALIE MICHON for being on the show. But listen, you can catch this edition of Be Lifted Up Radio. Tell all your friends, and every edition of the show on beliftedupradio.com, mochapodcastnetwork.com, that's podcast plural. You can follow us on social, including Instagram, Facebook, X. Subscribe to the Be Lifted Up Radio YouTube channel. Like, comment, share. Let's grow that audience. And you can catch us on Sirius XM 141 HUR Voices, Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 5 p.m. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr. This has been another great edition of Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. Please take care and God bless.